Hey AfterBuzzers, welcome to an all-new Twin Peaks after show here at AfterBuzz TV. Tonight, we're going to be breaking down Season 3, Part 8, titled Got a Light. This is going to be an interesting one, guys, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everyone, thank you again for tuning into our Twin Peaks after show here at AfterBuzz TV. I'm your host, Sam Davidson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SamD43. We've got the so-called expert of Twin Peaks right next to me.
Who calls me that?
You know, the people on the internet, Lex.
Oh, those guys.
Yes,
I like
those guys. I know. Introduce yourself.
I am Lex Michael. This is the well. Drink deep and descend, kids. I am all over social media at the Lex Michael.
Got a light. I'm Michael Shirley, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at MichaelXShirley.
Well, I might have a light. Hey, you can find me everywhere at Lisa Mason Lee.
And guys, don't forget to follow AfterBuzz TV at AfterBuzz TV on all social media platforms. We have Lisa in the live chat for all of us to put our broken brains together for tonight's episode. So, okay, before we break it down, in 3 words, what would you say tonight's episode made you feel?
3 words?
3 words.
Oh boy, what?
Okay, good one.
I wrote, I love it, I love it, I love it.
Okay.
Chi is off.
I guess mine is what the F, basically, is what's happening. I was watching this thinking, I wish I could watch this a million times for you guys and try to figure out what is actually happening. But I don't think anyone knows what's happening.
I feel like we can speculate quite a bit, and maybe even if we're being very generous to ourselves, we can call it informed speculation, but I feel like, at least for my part, that's going to be the best I can do tonight, is moderately informed speculation. But I do want to say, more than anything else, my big takeaway from this episode, this is a bit like what I was expecting the entire new series to be. I was waiting, like, from the very first episode for it to be this abstract, this inaccessible, this Inland Empire-y David Lynch, this Eraserheady. This episode got very Eraserheady in certain places, but it blew my mind, and it's so wonderful that Showtime gave David Lynch and this team, clearly gave him carte blanche to do whatever it is they wanted to do in a way that you don't see people get the freedom to do on television, no matter what network you're on. So, like, hats off to the entire team and to Showtime as well for giving them that freedom.
Yeah, most people probably wouldn't be okay with, like, maybe, how many minutes of dialogue? Maybe, like, 2 minutes of actual dialogue in the episode. So, yeah, that takes a lot of trust.
Yeah, I said 20 pages of dialogue, but I feel like it was probably 12 to 15 pages of dialogue at the end of the day. Just a fascinating, crazy piece of television that we don't see this ever.
You said you were wanting this, like this kind of abstract Lynch feel.
Not necessarily wanting it so much as I assumed this is more like what we were going to get.
I didn't think it was going to be anything like this, but I love that because Eraserhead is my favorite David Lynch movie, so I appreciated this episode.
And we got some visuals that are straight out of Eraserhead. All of the particles flying around the black screen, for example, lifted right out of Eraserhead. So that was very cool.
A lot of people in the chat are saying that. Not to jump ahead, there's a lot of Sarah Palmer talk.
I had this thought as well. This is my maybe one of my bigger pieces of, not even informed, me just taking shots in the dark here, but I think I know what all you guys are talking about, and I think I had the exact same thought as well.
But on those lines, I would think if I had to pick which parent it would be Leland Palmer.
Well, guys, I mean, there are so many which way directions we could possibly go, but the episode actually starts with some substance.
Yeah, like our only straightforward sequence in the entire episode that then very quickly delves so much deeper under that surface and becomes a big bag of, like, what the good God is happening right now. But yes, we do get like 5 minutes or so of I can fairly easily track this.
Yeah, fairly easily. You know, we have Dirty Dale and Ray as they're leaving from what I'm assuming, you know, at the end of the last episode when he left prison. So they're leaving together, and they're talking about tracking a car. They're getting close behind this truck. They throw a phone out the window. One thing leads to another, and Ray says to Dirty Dale he thinks he's worth some money. So he's not going to tell him these numbers that he has memorized. We've seen so many numbers. I'm not sure which numbers he's talking about, but I'm assuming it's one of those.
And this is also, I remember too, about midway through the sequence, this must be the same Ray that we were talking about in episodes past when he was meeting up with other members of his team. And we know that Dirty Cooper had reason to suspect Ray of being duplicitous at best. So you have to assume, to some extent, he would have expected a double cross somewhere, but not so much so that he didn't check that the gun was loaded.
He just assumed he was on top of shit.
Right.
You know, excuse my French.
I guess. You know what? I say if whatever they can say on the show, we can say. So it's Showtime.
They say.
I appreciated that they called him, well, that Ray called him Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Cooper.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I really liked that. It helped me think, okay, so maybe this guy is actually going by Dale Cooper now.
Yeah, and I mean we didn't get any Dougie this episode, which is shocking.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine.
I was
We've gotten
getting a little over
a
all
lot
that.
of Dougie learning. I mean, could you imagine him trying to read? You know, he's
gosh.
it's like Dougie in kindergarten. So
He just draws.
Exactly. I mean, listen, he's a savant, okay? He's way beyond his years. But we see Dirty Dale, and again, I did like that they called him Cooper, and that Cooper is worth a lot of money. So is it Cooper that they're really looking for? Is it the doppelganger? And who is they? Those are all of my questions.
I don't think Cooper's important because they tried to kill him.
Right. But let's get into trying to kill him. So Ray shoots Dirty Dale. And then, you know, he's about to die, and what are we calling them again?
The woodsmen?
The zombie woodsmen.
So when Michael and I were watching, we called them ghost
I called Hobo Zombie Gypsy Ghost.
Hobo Zombie Gypsy Ghost.
Yeah.
That's our prog band.
Yeah, until we found the credits, which called them the Woodsmen.
Yes.
So we know that these people are actually the Woodsmen that have been spoken of before.
So scary. I loved it.
Oh, so and we were talking about this just before we went live. It didn't really occur to me till the past week or so, but if we are meant to understand that these guys are called the Woodsmen, it reminds me of Jürgen Prochnow's character from Fire Walk with Me. When you get Philip Jeffries in the office talking about, I've been to one of their meetings, and we get this weird sequence of all of the Black Lodge denizens having a meeting ostensibly above a convenience store, but one of the guys in that scene, Jürgen Prochnow, who's just sitting there, I think he does like the weird reverse knee clap. He looks very much like a lumberjack or a woodsman. So I keyed into that connection. So I guess there are more of him. Maybe he's the head guy and he gets to hang out with all the other head guys above the convenience store while all the other woodsmen have to mill about in the convenience store.
But
like
again, they're...
And wasn't the convenience store owned by a Bobby and a Mike that ended up being
I know
the one-armed
in
man?
the original show, I know
nowhere.
that Philip Gerard, the one-armed man, talks about how when
Right.
he and Mike were partners, or when he and Bob, rather, were partners and they were killing together, they did live above a convenience store.
I think that's got to be something. And now that has to be, for sure, the dark evil that Hawk talks about living in the forest that no one really knows what it is. This is clearly that.
It is. And I mean, they're different creatures. They're definitely not alive. Because they are transparent. Literally, they're ghosts of some sort. So they're not some kind of creature, is what I'm assuming. You never know. I'm just putting this all together.
But I feel like we did get that. We know what this evil in the woods is, and we haven't known that for 25 years.
I want to know more. This is not justice.
What,
27 years.
what we see is like Ray turns on Mr. Cooper, shoots him, and is gonna leave him for dead. But before he has the opportunity to flee the scene, we get this horde of these ghostly woodsmen
Reviving him.
But before he revives, they're like digging at his guts.
Yeah, and they're wiping blood all over his face. Yeah,
It seemed a bit satanic, huh?
and
Demonic.
Yes.
And-
Is that why you're wearing red tonight,
I don't
Lisa?
know. You know, I had a whole different outfit planned. I swear to you guys. Like I said,
The devil whispered in your
my
ear.
chi was all centered, and then after I watched this episode, I was just like, different outfit. I don't know. I was feeling totally
you're
different.
trying to want to have a lighter vibe after all of that.
I don't
Scared.
know, man.
I'm very scared of you right now. Well, I just want to give a shout out to the 9 Inch Nails.
Oh,
We
hell yeah.
what I'm trying to pick up significance off of everything, and I think this was just like David Lynch going, "Hey, music break."
No,
Did she
Lost
say the Nine
Highway.
Inch
They were on
Nails?
the
The
Lost
Nine Inch
Highway
Nails.
soundtrack.
Lost Highway, of course, but
Yeah.
still, what did it have to do exactly with our plot?
I thought that had such a strong reference to Lost Highway because right after you see them driving off, kind of like on this lost little highway where he goes and shoots Dale, then we start hearing this music, and it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like that's what that was, some sort of little like tip of the hat.
Yeah, like I see you fans of my movies.
I really like too that the MC, we were talking about this before we came into the studio as well, the MC introduces them not as Nine Inch Nails.
The Nine Inch Nails.
The Nine Inch Nails. And in the credits, the whole band at the end, the way that they've been crediting the bands in every episode, they're credited as the, in quotation marks, Nine Inch Nails.
I noticed that on the Chromatics because I was looking them up online. I was like, since when were they called the Chromatics? Yeah.
Before though we get to the Nine Inch Nails
Yes.
though, right? We skipped over when they're digging it at Doppelkoop's body.
Yeah.
They dig out, I guess, this big black head-looking bubble thing, and we see
Mustache Man.
the first of
Whoever
several
that is.
appearances of Frank Silva's Bob.
Yes.
Is the
Wait,
face
that
on
was-
the
no.
bubble.
No,
Bob in
No.
the
we
bubble,
looked
or
at
was
that
it
like 4 times.
That was-
Bob came later.
That was, I'm positive that was Bob.
No,
Man
Bob
had a mustache.
Or was it Man from Another Place?
I thought
That
it was.
was-
I
that-
thought it was the
First
man for
bubble.
another place. We rewound
thought
it
Guys in
4
guys in the
times.
chat, guys
What
in
do
the
you
chat,
guys think?
back a horse
That
in this
was
race, kids.
not
Yeah,
Bob.
we're gonna
first
battle
bubble.
this out because
I don't think it was Bob.
I think me and Michael took about a legit 6 minutes.
We literally. That's why we were
just-
late tonight because we kept rewind. That was the part we rewound the most.
Well, it
Yeah.
was Bob for sure later.
Later.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, okay, let's get into this. July 16th, 1945, White Sands, New Mexico, 5:29 a.m. Got it.
So this is definitely two things. This is a tie-in both to that portrait of the mushroom cloud hanging in Gordon Cole's office in the previous episode, but also to the secret history of Twin Peaks. And I'm rereading the book now, as I think I've mentioned on the show before, and I just got to the section where they start talking about Jack Parsons, the rocket scientist, who was doing work on rocket science in the late 30s, early 40s, at a time where people were like, rocket science? Okay, sorcerer, go back to your tower. But his work, his pioneering work, helped lead to a lot of the work that the United States military was doing with weapons, including large explosive devices, in and around the Second World War. Per the book, The Secret History of Twin Peaks, Jack Parsons was also into some weird shit. So I like this idea that we're tying it into that part of the mythology. We're blending magic and science in a way. I don't know what you guys took from this sequence where we see this gorgeous black and white explosion, this mushroom cloud, but we enter the mushroom cloud, we enter the atomic explosion. And I almost read this as, are we seeing, it's not the birth of the mythology, because the mythology, per the book, goes back well before. I mean, at least to the discovery of the Pacific Northwest in America, and presumably far earlier than that. But are we seeing the birth of Bob in a way? Like we cut to that weird floating alien looking thing vomiting up some energy juice, and it's the Bob bubble is in that as well. Are we seeing the birth of Bob as we understand him?
See, okay, that is when I saw Bob. I did not see Bob. I see people in the chat saying the first part that we were just talking about coming out of Dirty Dale, or what was it, inside of him,
Disappeared in
Yes.
that little black.
that they thought
Organ.
that was Bob too. I did not think that was
No,
Bob. I think
absolutely
this was 100% Bob.
Yeah.
The explosion?
Yeah, he
The
came
bubble.
The bubble. He came in the bubble.
In Dale.
No,
I still
In the
maintain
mushroom.
that they're both Bob.
Oh, okay.
I've been
Okay.
waiting to see that mushroom cloud because
Tell us about the mushroom.
Well, if you go to the Showtime store and look at the Twin Peaks merchandise, there's a whole section that's just devoted to like David Lynch art, which is really, really cool. And he's got this jute tote bag that is like a drawing that he's done of like Twin Peaks, and he's like handwritten like Twin Peaks. and it's screen printed on the bag, but in the faint background, you can see a little mushroom cloud. And so I've been waiting for that to pop up in the show somewhere. So I was really excited to see that. And I think this is getting to where you're wanting it to go with aliens.
What is the significance between a bomb and it scientifically creating Bob? I don't understand the tie.
I almost wonder if, and again, this is now, I'm just wildly taking shots in the dark here, but it could be, especially if you read the book, and it's like Jack Parsons was also into some weird, maybe metaphysical stuff as well. The humans splitting the atom and creating something this destructive on this scale. I feel like you could argue maybe this is power that human beings are not necessarily meant to tamper with. And especially when we know that somehow the Black Lodge spirits are tied into electricity, the energy that you need to harness to split the atom and create an atomic explosion, I imagine would rattle some stuff loose, potentially some in a world where all of this metaphysical stuff exists, where these dark spirits exist. I feel like you're gonna shake some stuff loose by setting off an atomic explosion, potentially.
Sure. It's like a old school particle accelerator.
Yes.
You know, that's kind of the vibe I got.
I'm not even taking real life science into any of it at this point.
I don't think you should too much.
I'm thinking that this explosion is not a real bomb situation. This is, I don't even know what, but it's in space.
I think it's real.
Well, I mean, historically speaking, I mean, the atomic testing did
Yes.
really happen in 1945 in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, well, yes, we have that semi-stemmed in what we're talking about, but it's gone so much beyond that. I don't even know how I can tie it back. But again, New Mexico, the alien ties, and I just am continuing to think that this is...
For sure.
This is continuing to grow. And we also see that scene of the gas station, which I know all of us were hoping was not actually this random gas station, which with our hobo ghosts, the woodsmen.
I like hobo ghosts.
I was thinking it was Big Ed's gas farm.
Yeah. And
I was feeling that.
Michael, as you were watching it, you go, just pan up. You know, I want to see what this really is. So I feel like that could be it because they didn't pan up, but they could also just be messing with us, as always.
But again, it's a gas station, but the sign says convenience
Yeah.
store.
Well,
And I want them to pan up because, like, in the mythology, we know now that some weird stuff goes on above these convenience stores.
Well, it wouldn't be called Big Ed's gas farm because Big Ed was not even old enough to own a gas farm then. But
Big Ed
still,
was
I
like a
think it
baby.
is the same gas station.
Our friend in the chat, Brent, says humans should not have created these bombs, and an evil spirit known as Bob emerged from it.
Yes.
Just maybe.
Well, so my next topic, usually they're very specific and organized, but this one is guy that killed the people protecting the box vomits up Bob. Golden balls. Like, what are my notes even? I'm sorry, but that's all I got on that scene. Bob, golden balls. Lex, you take it from here.
Well, no, so I read that as, and this is my best guess, but I think we did witness the birth of Bob as we have come to know Bob in the Twin Peaks mythology. And then pretty shortly after that, we cut to this ocean and this island with a building on top of it. Before we move into this black and white, this monochromatic color scheme that we get for the rest of the episode, that whole ocean is the same maroon color as one of the rooms that I know Cooper has to pass through in episode 3 to leave the lodge. But we get to this building on top where, and again, I thought about Eraserhead immediately, where I felt we've got this lady, we've got some machinery. I had flashbacks to the lady in the radiator from Eraserhead.
Yeah.
But the giant is hanging out there too, and we see the phonograph and we see the same seats where the giant and Cooper had their first brief conversation at the very beginning of the first episode. Now, I think maybe some people in the chat were speculating about this earlier, but is it possible that we saw the White Lodge in this episode?
Yes, I think that is absolutely without a doubt the White Lodge.
And if not the White Lodge, certainly then their equivalent of a waiting room, much in the way that the Red Room seems to be the waiting room for the Black Lodge. I think that's definitely part of what we're seeing here.
And, well, you guys when Sam and I were watching, and I know Lisa kind of feels this way too, you all kind of felt like it was set in the past. And I don't really see anything that happens in the White Lodge or Black Lodge to really have any part of time.
It seems like they're very much out of time, yeah.
But the costumes and the makeup look very 40s.
It is a tip off to the audience to say, this is what we know, black and white, not present day. This is in the past. The makeup in the past. And I don't know if this is just to distract us or to tell us, give us a hint. This was technically... The thing is that I don't think time exists when you're not a human.
In the lodges.
In the lodges, or just in general. If you're not a human on this world, like all the mythology, time doesn't really exist.
Or certainly, if it does exist at all, it's definitely mutable or transferable, or there's different permutations of time than we experience in our reality. Like, we get that line in both Fire Walk With Me and also this new series where I think Mike or the man from another place says, is it future or is it past?
Right.
These places certainly have a different relationship with time than we do.
Because when she's kissing that like crystal orb that is like Laura Palmer.
Yeah, we got to talk about this.
And he's floating up in the air. Like, I think that she could be doing things in the past and he could be doing things in the future. I think they could be simultaneously, like...
Well,
how do you put that into a word? I think it all coexists.
Like, time is a weird, like a Mobius strip almost.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to them.
God, I think I think that in a way, this entire show, it's one circle, and things keep on going around, and there's not necessarily a place in time, unless there's Twin Peaks. It's in the world, in America, that we're talking about. But all the other stuff is kind of just floating around, and we're just going in some kind of circle or some kind of cycle. But as far as the Laura Palmer of it all, very fascinating. Gave us a lot of info I think we've been waiting for a long time.
I really do feel like if I could explain in detail what happened in this episode, it would basically unlock the entire Twin Peaks mythology.
I want to know what you guys think happens after that ball drops on Earth. What do you think?
Here's my best guess.
Get sucked through the silver screen.
Here's my best guess. Right, we see what I believe is the creation, the birth of Bob as we have come to know him, and we see the giant. And I love that he's still credited as a bunch of question marks because he is the giant. He's the giant we've always known, but like, to be fair, we don't know what the giant is. We've never really known what the giant is.
But he's seen benevolent.
Yes, but he's just the giant, whatever that means beyond that. But he witnesses this happening, he and his lady friend, and they see this bubble, and like, they freeze frame on the Bob bubble for a second, and it seems like, all right, well, we've got to address this, and we see the giant float up and birth another golden bubble, and of course was reminded of not exactly the same type of ball, but the little golden ball that created Dougie, the original Dougie Jones that was replaced by Cooper. So these golden balls, to one extent or another, are used in the creation of these other vessels. So they send this bubble that has Laura Palmer's face in it to Earth, and of course, now before we even delve into what comes after and what that all might mean, so it seems like we see this evil being created, and that's the Bob bubble. And we know we have to create something that's going to counter this evil. We need to create something of... this is just how I read it. We have to create something of purity and send
Laura Palmer is like the opposite of like piety and purity.
Agreed. Now, I don't think everything went according to plan.
I don't know. I don't see these dots connecting. I don't see those.
This is the prequel to the prequel.
What do you think that ball meant?
So we created something, right? The idea was we would create something of purity. Now, that doesn't mean that purity can't then be corrupted. Tainted. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, how much do you want to jump around? Because then it's a question of, we do have another time jump from 45 to 56, is it?
Before we get there, though, real quick, Lisa, will you read what Cameron Holland said in the chat, his theory? It's kind of brilliant.
Absolutely. The earthly events are a show, and the giant and the lady are its creators. Seeing his part of a show is what drove Cooper insane, and not the time spent away.
Well, that last part,
spent away.
Spent away. Interesting theory. Not even sure I understand all of it, but I think that's in the right direction, possibly.
I don't know.
That the giant and this lady are creating whatever it is, and they're sending them onto Earth.
This White Lodge, to me, it looks alien. like the construction of it. When we're zooming into it from the seat, and when we were zooming into the window, you were saying how the window kind of looked like a little slit from a wall socket.
Yeah.
It has an Ed Wood feel to me, personally. You know?
But yes to everything everybody just said. There's definitely a connection between what we're seeing and the color scheme, I think, before we even got into that building, tipped it. But there's definitely a connection between what we're seeing here and what we saw in episode 3. And I also absolutely think there is a connection to extraterrestrials of some kind because of how prominently they figure into the secret history of Twin Peaks, and how even in the original series, Garland Briggs would talk about his work on Project Blue Book. Now, whether or not it actually indicates the presence of aliens as we typically understand aliens, quote-unquote extraterrestrials and UFO research is a big part of the backstory of this mythology. So there's definitely some connection there.
Well, when I saw that ball go to Earth, I was hoping that it's Laura Palmer coming back to fix everything.
Okay.
Because she told everyone, I'll see you in 25 years. If time doesn't pass in the lodge, I want her to come back like a doppelganger, like, which is your favorite, like, thing on Earth is a doppelganger. And I was hoping that's what that means.
Had a text conversation for about an hour where I, just me and him, where I talked about doppelgangers to him and how I loved them and I want to have one.
I don't want to believe your Pretty Little Liars theme or your theory.
Well, I'm
for
super
that.
into doppelgangers.
But I also think too, we were talking about how the idea was to maybe to create something of purity, and maybe it wasn't, but it seems like this has something to do with the origin of Laura Palmer as well. What if it's not necessarily, what if they're playing the long game? It's not about creating, and of course they're dropping this bubble into the 1940s, so it's not like it's a direct one-to-one to what we saw in the original series. But what if they're playing a very long game, in as much as we create something ostensibly of purity, even if that purity gets corrupted, Laura Palmer has to be corrupted because she has to die, because we have to get Cooper there, because we need Cooper for this ultimate reckoning to defeat this evil. Again, it's shots in the dark here.
I'm not on that
Let's
train.
give a shout out to Kelly Telly in the chat. She has some interesting thoughts. She said, I think the interesting thing is that the story began with the death of Laura Palmer, and obviously this new season hasn't forgotten that. So when you look back on this show from season 1, it's about a family that's devastated, a town that's devastated by a killing of a young, beautiful girl. No one knew season 1 that any of this was really, until probably, 6 episodes in, beyond it being a murder mystery. But it did start at a very specific time, and then Fire Walk With Me explained more of that. It is all about Laura Palmer.
I want to know what is so important about Laura Palmer. I wrote that down. I really want to know why.
Yeah.
Like, what is it with her?
I don't know. All I know is that if I see that actress in LA walking around, I will pee my pants terrified.
Shirley, I would just run.
I will run, and
I will speak backwards to her.
I'll probably call you guys, one of you, and I'll cry, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, what's happening?"
I would book it and over my shoulder, be like, "You're amazing," and I would just keep running.
Can you imagine the burden she carries just being Laura Palmer? It's
my gosh.
Can't go anywhere without.
She just look at people. She just just stares at them.
Yeah.
So then we get back. We go to 1956, August 5th, New Mexico desert, and we see this couple. And let's talk about this couple for a little bit, because it's confusing, and the way that they speak, it's as though they are in the 50s.
Are you talking about the ones in the car?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like they are in the 50s. We're told they're in the 50s, but again, this time thing is throwing me off constantly.
No, I think she's talking about the man and the woman that are driving the car. You're talking about the boy and the girl.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking about the boy and the girl.
Okay. Okay.
Wait, which man and woman are you talking about?
The
ones
with
the zombie hobo.
The gotta light. The whole thing starts.
Oh, okay. Wait. Well, let's go back to that then, because did that happen before this? I'm trying to think.
No, it's somewhere right around the same time.
Yeah, well, because it all kind of is parallel and odd. So Michael, what did we see first? Because I feel like I kind of lost the ball for.
Dropped the ball.
We see the what did I call it? I call it a frog fly hatch out in the Mexico desert, and then before we see the couple walking home, we see the hobo zombie gypsy ghost attack the couple in the car, who has to dodge them and is just driving around. Apparently they were okay, I'm assuming.
Yeah, probably not.
And then we get to the couple.
Yeah, okay, so then we get to the couple, and there have been a lot of comments and theories about this creature. What is it, a bug? What
This
do we want to
weird
call it?
frog fly thing.
Yeah.
Frog fly, that's
But
good.
who do we decide? Who do we think the couple is?
So I
by the way?
have a theory on this, and it's dependent on making the connection between that egg that hatches and the golden ball. And I think that's intentional because we do time jump off of the golden ball coming to Earth. So if the golden ball and the egg that hatches are one and the same. All right, go with me on this, you guys.
Here we
I
go.
think that frog bug creature is in a way
Laura?
is Laura Palmer.
I'm giving you some
And
kind of
I
look right
think,
now.
I kind of agree with it.
There is a chance, and this does seem to be one of the popular theories, not just in the chat, but I did a quick check of the Reddit before I jumped in here with you guys. The popular theory seems to be that this young girl, and the age, 1956, I think the age would be correct, is a young Sarah Palmer. And this bug entering her is essentially Laura being created by the Lodge, giving herself a vessel through which to be born.
I would think if it was going to be anyone, it would be Leland Palmer's parents.
Which could also
He's the
be
one that
But I don't
is,
think
like,
the ages
more
would line up.
connected to Bob than Sarah.
You guys-
Sarah just kind of sees Bob sometimes, but she's not really part of it.
The only reason I lean towards Sarah is because of the ages. I think the Leland thing would make a ton of sense, but I'm not sure that the ages would line up.
What if they're... Sorry.
How much
I'm going
older
to
do you
forget
think
this in a
we-
second.
I'm the same way. Go
I'm going to
for it.
forget this in a second. So what if that bug frog thing crawls into girls kind of every generation, and they become this conduit of Bob or whomever, but Laura Palmer was the first to be able to ward it off in a way that, when they when they blew the gold bubble of Laura Palmer onto the earth, that somehow she was special because she...
I don't think she's that egg.
But
don't
it was her
think she's a part-
face.
In the golden ball, but the
the-
golden ball
not the
doesn't
egg, the ball.
necessarily
It
have to
doesn't-
be that egg.
No,
and
it
it
doesn't
doesn't,
have
right?
to
Like
be.
my reading of it,
I don't think they're connected.
yeah, my reading of it is dependent on there being a direct connection, which is I'm inferring, but that's true. We don't explicitly state that they are one and the same.
I think Laura Palmer's coming to the present day.
Well, and I'd like to add that Sarah, if that little girl is Sarah Palmer, she'd be awfully young to be having a baby at that age. A little doppelganger, bug baby, whatever this thing is.
But she doesn't
Bug baby.
necessarily have to be having the baby now. It could be like, this bug thing, I now have a host. So one day
Right.
when she has a child, whatever, a semi-conscious, semi-formed version of whatever will become Laura, I can then be born. But of course, Laura, once she's born, doesn't seem to be fully conscious of any of this at all. So
She's special. I think she's special.
I know why is she special.
Mr.
I
E
think
in the
that's
chat
the real
says
question.
she was able to resist Bob. Like maybe she's the only generation of the girl that they picked that was able to resist Bob. And why is she special? I don't know, but the gold ball that produced her with that woman and she kissed it, that was Laura Palmer. Maybe this was like, you're my baby, you're going to save everything, and I'm going to send you out there.
I don't know why you guys are giving Laura Palmer all of this credit for being like this good thing. I think if she'd have lived long enough, she very well could have turned into Bob herself, but she didn't.
Well, her dad
I mean,
was
you guys
Bob.
say that she's... Yeah, but you say oh, well, she was able to ward off Bob. I don't think
Because-
she warded off Bob, really. She died.
Well, yeah, she didn't make it, but she didn't get taken over fully
Well,
by Bob.
here's another question for you guys.
Okay.
Do you only end up in the Black Lodge upon death if you're killed by Bob? If I know some people that are there aren't dead. They're
Right.
more like spiritual beings.
But that's true. Everybody that we see that is dead.
Do you have to die by Bob's hand to end up there?
I God, I don't know. And someone just commented in the chat that Laura Palmer is Jesus confirmed.
Oh gosh.
Shout out,
to
the Nightman Cometh. Thank you for that. That was
But
nice.
yeah, Kelly Telly in the chat too points out that Laura, per Fire Walk With Me, her final act is an act of defiance against Bob. It does ultimately cost her life, but it's that versus allowing herself to be possessed and become Bob's vessel. She does defy him. That does get her killed, but I think that's ultimately why I think in death, depends on how you read the ending of Fire Walk With Me, but I think in death, Laura finally finds peace, and it is because she is able to, in her final moments, defy Bob the way she does.
Yeah, and in Fire Walk With Me, too, I might be making this up. I feel like she had a conversation with Leland or somebody that someone said that she's fighting it, that she can fight it, and that no one else really has. I don't know if that was in Fire Walk With Me or an episode.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but she was in a way special because she was struggling. It was hard to fight him, and he was coming in and out, but she was able to fight it off as, and Leland, her father, it just was very easy, as I'm sure many other conduits that Bob has come into. It's just, goes in and it's fine, but Laura really fought it.
I thought I had like a little grip on this timeline of like now that we had seen the White Lodge, because everything was in black and white. I'm thinking, okay, so everything black and white's happening in the White Lodge. But then we get these flash to like the 40s and 50s, and that's in black and white. So then I'm like,
right.
I almost want to redo this entire after show after it's over,
so
and we
great.
can all sit together for 18 hours and rewatch it.
I'm gonna make him rewatch that scene and show him that is not.
Oh, do you guys have
Bob
any
in
idea?
that
I'm gonna
stomach.
kidnap you and make you rewatch this with me.
Who wants to
We're
put
going
money on
straight
it?
to the viewing station.
Well, let's
after
do it.
this.
Who wants to put money on it?
No, we're gonna go to a big TV where we can actually see things.
That's how I watched it, kids. So yeah, but what I think is amazing too is this episode, more than any episode that we've seen so far from this show, and again, this is a bit more like what I was expecting we were going to get from the jump, it really is David Lynch and co. somewhat defying us to do our jobs on a show like this. You know what I mean? Because this is so clearly not designed for the recap culture that has become so prevalent on the internet. And again, nobody is given carte blanche to do this on TV.
Do you think he ever watches this? No, never.
I hope so. If you do, hello.
Some of the stuff.
That'd be really
David.
funny. And he's like, I got you guys. Lastly, let's talk about, I'm just calling him Zombie Guy.
Did we even talk about Dale coming back to life?
Where he pops
Yeah,
out.
he
I
pops
that
back.
he's alive. Is he
He pops
alive?
back.
He came
but
back.
I just want to make sure we cover this
Huh.
Zombie Guy and, Pop's Diner.
Yeah.
and
This
just-
is water, and this is well. Drink full at his hand. The horse is the white of the eyes and dark within. Yes, and then he just keeps on going over and over again.
The horse, this is the only part of this that I can make sense of. The horse, of course, is the
horse,
of course,
of course.
is the famous Mr. Ed. Is the white horse that we've been seeing.
Ed.
Is Big Ed.
Stop.
Oh,
Okay, now we're
Connect
getting
the
too
dots.
crazy.
Big Ed is the magic
Yeah,
horse,
yes.
confirmed.
Oh my God, he's the horse. Oh my gosh, stop it.
But
Stop it.
obviously the white horse, it's a biblical reference. Of course, the pale horse symbolizes death. And in the original show, Sarah Palmer has visions of the white horse before somebody
On
is
the
about to
carpet.
die. Yes. Yeah,
That
and the bloody carpet. But so, of course, the white horse, the horse is the white of the eyes, the white horse, and dark within, because the white horse does symbolize death and darkness. The rest of this, I don't know.
And everyone that listens to him over the radio
Did
dies.
they die or did they
It's
just
like
pass
they're
out?
like
Well,
hypnotized or
I'm
fainted.
assuming from what Lex just said, they die.
I don't know, though, because now, again, this really does depend on how, for example, my theory, if the rest of the show bears us out on this, because if that was a young Sarah Palmer, we know she doesn't die. We know that they maybe got knocked out, so we could use them as vessels of some kind. But we only see one of these little bugs. We know whoever this girl is, the bug is presumably picked her as a host for some purpose. Now, maybe these other people were knocked out for similar reasons, but we don't see what happens with them. So
I think the bug is Bob, and that lady is Leland Palmer's mother.
Well, on that note, guys, we're running out of time. Let's get into some very quick predictions.
Oh, yes, yes.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Spooky.
Spooky. All right, let's start with you, Michael.
Me?
Yeah, let's start with
Oh
you.
my gosh. My log has something to tell you. No, seriously, I really, really think, you guys, I think Sarah Palmer's coming to the present day, and I think that's what that was.
Okay.
I want to believe that. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. All right. How about you, Lisa? Hold the log. Hold the log.
Does it help?
The log says, I'm lost. Me too.
I would say, regardless of how these specific threads that we brought up tonight are followed through on, we're not done with the Palmer family, not by a long shot. And
we haven't even seen them yet.
But I think that this was, it's like, here you go, you guys, and we're off. I think this show is taking a break next week. It's the 1 week that we're not getting a new episode until we wrap up.
Yes.
I believe so. So it's like, you guys now have a week. Chew on everything we just gave you, but this is basically your big appetizer for now we're going to be entering the second half.
Maybe
of the
Audrey
season.
Horne will freaking come back.
And it's like, we're not done with the Palmers. Like, watch this space, you guys, because this stuff is going to become real important in the back half.
Yes, agree with that. All right, so I'm really ready for Audrey to come back. I've said this for the past maybe 3 to 4 weeks. I think that this episode is what kind of... So we saw these new characters this last 8 episodes, and we're seeing this crazy stuff we don't understand now. Hopefully, after this, we are going to see the characters we know and we love, and they're going to come back, is what I'm very... Especially Shelley. Shelley as well. Love Shelley. Those are my predictions. Thank you, Log. And thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you in 2 weeks. So in those 2 weeks, rewatch these episodes and tell us what you think. On that note, one more time, where can everyone find you on social media?
Hey, everybody can find me at Lisa Mason Lee.
And you can find me at Michael X Shirley.
I'm all over social media at the Lex Michael.
And you guys can find me, Sam Davidson, at samdavidsonentertainment.com, Twitter and Instagram at samd43. Love us or hate us, guys. We're trying to break it down for you the best we can, and I'm sure you can't really do it much better, but we love you, so keep on commenting, and we're going to do this together. It's a group thing.
Yeah, let's compare our notes.
Yes, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, guys.
Thank you. See ya.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Gotta like.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.